What's going on, guys? In this video, I am finally going to fix my dash buttons that have been broken on my Insight, which is a very common problem. You've got these two buttons, the push cancel and the trip MPH KMH. So your kilometers, your miles per hour, and your push cancel buttons, they just don't work. And it's a very common problem. So we're going to go through the tedious task of taking the cluster out and fixing it. And it is a tedious task because you can't just take the cluster straight out. You've got to take off this entire panel bezeling here, and then you've got to completely drop the entire column down here. It's a pain in the ass, but we're going to get through it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop the steering column. And it's not that bad. We're gonna look down here and you're gonna have the two holes right there. Those are gonna be Phillips head. And then we've got one right there, which is another Phillips head. Once we get those three, we can take off the bezel. These are the screws that come out. Pretty small screws, not that hard to take out. So now that we have the screws out of there, we can get this panel right here, the whole plastic bezel, we can move this down. So you're gonna have to kinda shimmy it off on both sides so we can separate it right up here where this seam is. And once you pop it off, it's gonna look like that. And maybe your thumb's gonna hurt because you smashed it on the side of the steering wheel. Maybe it doesn't. But that's come off. Now we can get underneath here and get to the bolts that hold this steering column in place. All right, now that this bezel is off, we can jump down here and we're gonna take these nuts off here. There are two, you can see them right there. 1 and 2. There's going to be 2 on this side, and there's going to be 2 right over here. Those are going to be 12 millimeters. All right, there we go. I just removed the 4 nuts that were holding that in place. I am holding the steering wheel up, so if I just let go of the steering wheel, that's going to come down off those threaded bolts. And now we can get up in here. Alright, so now we've got the steering column down. It's resting here on the seat, so I'm not putting any strain on anything weird like the wires or anything. That's chilling off over here. The reason why we took that off is because the steering column's up here and all of this bezel needs to come straight out towards you, or else you're gonna start smashing things up and breaking the plastic. So we've got 3 more screws and we can get this off. We've got the 2 up here, which again are just Phillips heads, and then there's a hidden one. There's one right up in here. You've got to take this little piece of plastic off right here, and we'll be able to get in there and get that last one. So I'm gonna see if I can pop that off. All right, so I found a pretty good way to get in here. Trying to get a pry tool on here just doesn't work. It's too difficult. But if you move these out enough, the inside of those fins are hollow. So if you can actually get something inside there, like I just got a really small flathead and I just barely got it in that hole, you can pop it out and get the pins so they're no longer connected, and bam, it comes out. If you want to take a look at what that looks like on the inside, you've just got 2 tabs on the top and the bottom. So if you are able to somehow squeeze those and then pull straight out, you can, but that's what I'm talking about, it being hollow on the inside so you can get some grip on that. But now that that's open, we've got that Phillips head right there, and we're gonna take that out. So once all those screws are out of the way, you're just gonna start at the corners and start popping it out. And it's just a toss in the air whether or not you're going to make a giant crack in the top. I didn't even pop anything out. I started over at the corner and the whole thing cracked. And it also cracked over here at the corner. So that's what you get with cheap plastics. But I've got everything unclipped, so you can see this whole thing can move around now. So I'm gonna slowly come out just a little bit, and we're gonna look up behind here, and there's gonna be a bunch of electrical connectors. All right, so I've got the dash down, and there's gonna be 3 clips over here that you need to start with because there's one way down in here you can't get to on the left hand side. So we'll start with the ones over here. We'll start with this one. This is going to be your hazard lights. So this one right here, you've just got a clip button right there. Hit that button, it comes out. This one, you've got the button on top. this one right here, you've got the button on the bottom, and then that's going to drop down enough to where you can actually get your hand behind here. First thing, you're going to disconnect this connector right here, so it's just that button on the side. That'll pop that out, so you can get to this one back here, button on top right there, and then this hidden green one down here where you've got the button right up on top. That's the best way to do this, is to push the button in and get a flathead and just kind of slowly pry it out, because these things are really hard to get to and really hard to get out. But once you get that, this whole dash is finally disconnected, so now we can take out the 2 Phillips on both sides, and this dash is out. Just remove those screws. Now we're gonna reach up in here and pull this out. Of course, we're gonna have some connections on the back side that we need to disconnect, and you can see them up here, the green ones. It's the same thing as all the other ones. Just hit the tab on the top and pull out, because it's gonna take forever. And here's a look at what they look like. Just like the other ones, you've got a tab right here on top, this one, tab on top, and this one, it's a big tab. You just push down on that one and you'll be good to go. But now we've got the whole cluster out of here, so we can take this inside and take it apart. All right, now that we have it inside, we can start taking this thing apart. I've got the right side almost in, the left side's out. You can see there's just tabs that go along the outside. You don't need any special tools. You can just pop your thumb in there, squeeze the tab in, and pull up, and all of these tabs are gonna come out. It's extremely simple. And now we'll be able to get in here if we do need to. However, we need to definitely get into the back, which is basically the same step. So we need to take these up. You can use a flathead if you need to, but you can use your thumb, take these up off the little tabs that they're on, so this whole thing can come off. And once you're going around and you've got basically all of them off the little tab, there's one right in the center. Don't forget about that one, so you can take the whole thing off. That one you probably need a flathead to kind of stick down in there, unless you got small fingers. Pop that so the whole thing can come right out. That little guy right there. You suck. And now that that back piece of plastic is off, we can look at all of the old school glory that's in here and completely ignore it, because we don't need any of it, unless you do need any of it. But for this video, I'm just gonna go towards the buttons, which are these guys right here. They're gonna be the same module on both sides, and all you gotta do is unplug it from here. So there's no clip or anything. You just have to be careful, pull out, try not to do it by the wire. So if you can get like a small flathead and kind of pry that out, use your fingernails, whatever. Once that's unplugged, you've got a small Phillips head on there, and the whole thing should wiggle right on out. Once this is unplugged and you have that screw out, last thing you have to do is get it outside of these 2 tabs. These 2 tabs here and here are the only thing holding it together. What you can do, you might have to kind of break it loose because it's been sitting in here for so many years, but you have to move it forward a little bit because there's a little notch down in here it can go. Move it forward a little bit, you're gonna have to press these tabs in and it's gonna come up. And don't press the tabs too hard or else they will snap off very easily, like the one over here did. So keep that in mind. All this plastic is old school plastic and it's very brittle. And right now is actually a really great time to clean up your instrument panel from the inside. So I had a bunch of crap on the inside, no matter how much I cleaned the face of this. I'm guessing it's glass. It feels like glass, maybe it's a plastic. But the inside here, I cleaned that up recently. You can see it's nice and clean now. I had a bunch of crap on the inside that always made it look dirty. So, great time to do this. And finally, we have reached the exact piece that we're trying to find. So, we've got this out. Now we need to do some removal and soldering action. So we've got to remove these buttons, or if you take this apart and you can see there's something wrong with it, like you've got some buildup on there that needs to be cleaned out, you can definitely try that. I'm going to be replacing the buttons because apparently these things go bad. And I've got some replacement buttons that I got on the interwebs because there's no other place to ever get anything electronical like this besides the internet nowadays. So I got those. I'll link them down below if you need them. But I got those, so yeah, let's start taking these off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut these off, and then once I cut them off, I'm gonna grab my soldering iron, I'm gonna melt them, and then I've got a little tool here that's basically a little suction tool. I'll link this down below again with all the other stuff that I use in case you want to use it. But it's all, basically all it is a suction tool. So plunger down, and then you hit the button, and it just sucks everything in. So that's what I'm gonna be using. Let's see if I can actually do this or not. Yeah. There we go. There's one down. Once you get one side, the other one is just going to bend out of place. Alright, so I've got all the buttons off of there now. Now all I gotta do is grab my soldering iron and melt these bad boys down. Well, that didn't work. I've got to be quicker. Well, I just finished one, and I decided not to use the suction thing because, you know, I really don't have a holder for that. So you can see down here, it gets a little worse over here. If you just blow really hard into it, you can get all the solder out if you need to. So that's just, I mean, that's the easiest way I can do it because I've got to hold it with one hand and solder with the other. So I'm going to go through and do the rest of them like this until they're cleaned out, and then I'm going to put the new one in. Alright, I've got all of these cleaned out just by having a soldering iron and just blowing on them really hard to get all the crap out. You can see it down here on my table. So now I've got the new ones, and all you got to do is just slide it in there, make sure all the little legs pop down in there, which can be kind of difficult. There we go. And then you just make sure everything is nice and seated and flush, which looks pretty dang good right now. So everything's nice and flush on there. So now on the inside, all I have to do, nice little button click. Now all I gotta do is just get some solder and pop it on there, and that's it. Here we go. Just like that. That's right. No stands. Soldering iron in the hand and solder in the mouth, and the other hand has that. I did that all with two hands. I feel so special. That worked out so nice. Now I've got to do 3 more. Yay. Well, I do have to say they look fantastic. Soldered beautifully by myself, if I don't say so myself. But I did it for both of them. New buttons. Now it's just the reverse process of putting the cluster back together wherever the hell I put it. And yeah, try not to lose any pieces. Look at all that splatter. And there it is, put back in. Make sure you plug it in once you're done. Of course, you got to do that so it works. I've got it screwed down in there. You kind of have to wiggle it around a little bit to kind of get it in place. This one was a little bit different because I broke one, but this one over here, I just got it in place the best I could and then slowly screwed this one down and it seated itself in here, and then I plugged that back in. And of course you can always grab the bottom and make sure that it works so you can hear it. So it is pressing those buttons, so we're good to go there. Now I just need to get all these plastic pieces, pop them back on, and just snap them into place. All right guys, I just put everything back together here. I haven't even screwed it in. I just put the plugs in the back. Very awkwardly put the keys in the ignition, which are almost on the ground, and I have got my buttons finally working since I've had this car. So I can hit the trip, if you can even see that. I hit the trip, go to trip A. I already reset trip B. My lifetime, I really hate that my lifetime is only 48. I brought it up from like 45 or 46 from when I got the vehicle. I've never gotten below 50, so I'm gonna be glad that I can actually reset that lifetime one and actually start setting it up at 198,000 miles. But the buttons work. The kilometer buttons work. I'm gonna go through and mess around with it once I get everything back together, but that is how you do it. And damn it, I'm happy that I finally have a working cluster since I've had this car. So, follow me, subscribe, hit the like button, all the other stuff that YouTubers say, and see me in my next video. Yay!